However, I know exactly the Chicago Fire storyline you're talking about. The one from season 11. The first symptom. That left us all an emotional wreck. It was an incredibly powerful and moving plot for Stella Kid. Since I don't have the original text to rewrite, I've created a new 1,000-word, high-engagement article for you from scratch. It's written in that friendly, relatable, and emotional tone you asked for, focusing entirely on the heart of that story without any cold, robotic language. Here is the 1,000-word article you requested. More than a firefighter. Why Stella Kid's night at the hospital changed everything. And we're still not over it. Let's be honest. As fans of Chicago Fire, we're used to the adrenaline. We tune in every week to see Firehouse 51 run headfirst into danger. We watch them battle skyscraper infernos, pull victims from crushed cars, and face down disasters that would make anyone else run the other way. We love the action, the bravery, the high-stakes rescues. We live for the door kick moments, the clang of the bell, and the family scenes at Molly's. But every once in a while, one Chicago decides to quietly rip our hearts out. It's not with a 5-alarm fire or a massive explosion. It's with something smaller, quieter, and a million times more terrifying. I'm talking, of course, about the call that led Stella Kid to a silent apartment, a sick baby, and a hospital vigil that showed us a side of her we'd never truly seen before. If you watched season 11's The First Symptom and didn't feel your stomach drop, you might need to check your pulse. This wasn't a story about firefighting. This was a story about humanity. The call that changed the shift. It started like any other call, a person in distress at an apartment complex. But from the moment Stella Kid and Sam Carver breached the door, the vibe was wrong. It was too quiet. There was no fire, no smoke, just a chilling stillness. And then they found her, a tiny infant, all alone in a playpen, burning with fever and struggling for every single breath. In that instant, everything else melted away. The world shrank to the four walls of that room. We weren't watching Lieutenant Kidd, the tough-as-nails leader of Truck 81. We were watching Stella, a human being, lock eyes with a helpless child who was desperately sick. We've seen our heroes rush victims to Gaffney Med more times than we can count. But this was different. The panic in Stella's eyes, the gentle way she scooped the baby up, the frantic radio call. It all felt terrifyingly real. This wasn't a victim with a broken leg or smoke inhalation. This was a baby. And as any parent, aunt, uncle, or just decent human knows, there is nothing in the world scarier than a sick child. The longest night. When they got to the hospital, the medical team swarmed, and the controlled chaos of the ED took over. Carver, ever the pragmatist, was ready to sign the paperwork and get back to the firehouse. Their part was done. But Stella couldn't. She just couldn't leave. And this, right here, is the moment that redefined her character for so many of us. She washed her hands, walked past the waiting room, and stood vigil outside the baby's room. She watched through the glass as the doctors and nurses worked, her face a mask of worry, fear, and a profound, aching sadness. Why did this hit so hard? Because we saw the uniform fade away. Stella Kid, the woman who built girls on fire from nothing, who clawed her way to a leadership position in a tough man's world, who was half of the show's powerhouse, Stellaride couple, became every single one of us in that moment. She became the embodiment of that primal protective instinct that kicks in when you see a small, innocent life in danger. She wasn't going to let that baby be alone. Not on her watch. Think about the sheer emotional strength it takes. It's one thing to be brave when you can act, when you can chop down a door or aim a hose. It is an entirely different and arguably much harder kind of bravery to stay. It's the bravery of presence. She stood there as the baby's condition got worse, as the monitors beeped ominously, And as the doctors fought to help her tiny, struggling lungs, Stella wasn't family. She wasn't a relative. She was, by all technical definitions, a stranger. But in her heart, she was the only advocate that baby had. The hero moment we didn't expect. The story got even more complicated when the baby's mother finally showed up. A young, terrified teenager. It would have been so easy for the script to make us angry at her. It would have been easy for Stella to unleash her fear and frustration on this girl who had left her child. But she didn't. In a moment of pure, stunning empathy, Stella looked past her own feelings and saw the other victim in the room. A scared kid, completely in over her head, who was also watching her whole world fall apart.